Okay, I pressed the button and we are live. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special episodic discussion podcast. We're going to be talking about Wolverine, the guy that is best at what he does, and we're going to be talking about his history, whether it comes to games, movies, or comics. I'm Renegade Operative, I'm the host, and first we have Cryo.
Hey guys, I can't wait to get into the thick of it with Wolverine.
Next up we have Lanos.
Hey everybody, I'm excited to go through this discussion. It's one of the first comic characters I was introduced as a kid, so beyond like the norms of Batman and everything of DC, so I'm excited to really talk about all this.
Brandito.
Hi, it's me again. Yes, I'm pretty excited to talk about Wolverine. He's definitely one of my favorite superheroes, right next to like Batman and Spider-Man and whatnot. So, yeah.
Next up is Hollowheart.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. This is actually my first like comic book discussion, so that's kind of cool. Wolverine's one of my favorites. Just kind of like what was just said, you know, up there next to like Batman, really for me.
And Andre.
Hello guys, this is me, Andre BVM. I am really excited to be talking about Wolverine, aka one of my favorite comic book characters easily.
Alright, so let's get right into it with the first question. As always, what was your first introduction into the Wolverine character? Well, what's the first thing you discovered him in? So who wants to go first?
I can go ahead and go in
Okay.
at first, pretty quick and simple. Basically, Hulk versus Wolverine, the first comic book that actually had them, the first issue comic book that had them fighting. They was like number 181. I freaking love that. And then it was X-Men. The movie, I mean.
I was supposed to say that's a really broad part at that point if you just say X-Men.
There's a lot of
X-Men
movies.
Fox.
Yeah. I guess I'll go next real quick. So my first introduction had to be just like most, 90s babies with the X-Men cartoon and seeing him fight against the Sentinels and that gruff accent being done by the actor. That was really, really great. As a fun fact, I recently saw that guy again, and he was a guest on Godzilla Mendoza's video reprising the same role as Logan, and he's coming back as Wolverine in X-Men 97. So that was my real formal introduction. I just like how badass he was, and he was, going against people like Cyclops, punching him out, and I just thought that was super hilarious, like the rebel of the group. But that's one of the first experiences I had with Wolverine, and I think it was one of the best ones as it got better and better with Hugh Jackman taking over the role in the Fox X-Men movies and the games as well, and reprising that character. Steve Bloom coming and voicing him, that was also really great. So that was my first experience, and it was a really good one. I really loved it.
Can I go for next real quick?
Okay.
For me, it was earliest memory is definitely the cartoon, the X-Men cartoon. And then I came across them in Marvel's Capcom 2. But in order, I guess would be the show, either the movie or the game, and then vice versa, which either or. So yeah, like it's pretty simple. Like most people, it's be the '90s show.
That show was so amazing, goddamn.
It's
For
so good that it got a sequel, technically.
Yep.
Because, yeah, it's coming back.
For me, my answer is really simple, but it was from the old, since you guys said the old X-Men cartoon from the 90s. I remember as a kid watching Saturday mornings when Wolverine popped up. Really cool character. The voice actor definitely did a great job making him just like this really ferocious, tough guy, and especially with other actors that follow suit, like Steve Blum and many others. And yeah, that's pretty much how I was introduced to the character.
Anyone else want to go on this?
Okay, I can go. I was introduced like everyone with the cartoon, but actually right before that, I was actually reading the comics. It's how I knew Logan, as you may say, from like the Weapon X run. I think that was number 72, issue 72, and just running through that in the early 90s. And then after that, it was like the cartoon and everything kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, comic. I started out as a comic reader.
Hello, Hart. What about you?
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely the cartoon was definitely like my first introduction to Wolverine, especially because like it was my favorite Saturday morning cartoon was watching X-Men. But then I actually had gotten a box of comics at some point, and a handful of the comics in there were basically the solo Wolverine stories. I cannot remember the exact run, but he's taking care of a kid, and that was kind of like my biggest kind of go into Wolverine. And then like Hugh Jackman came out, and I thought Hugh Jackman was an amazing Wolverine, and you know there's plenty of other guys as well.
Oh yeah, the one with the kid. That's like, it reminded me too much of like Lone Wolf and Cub a little bit, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's an older comic run, so I can't remember, and I have not read it in years, so I can't remember exactly what it was. But I remember like it's basically he was on the run or on his own, and there was a girl involved that he was taking care of.
They kind of channel like a bit more of that with him and X-23 like later on and media and the comics as well. Also, I just like when he's in war because he's like super ancient and stuff like that. So because of that, he's fought in like world wars, and I remember that one scene where he got like nuked in the movie and he had like no skin left on his face. It looked like a horror film. That was actually pretty impressive for what they did at the time. But
It's also very comic accurate. So it was like the first time I see it, I was like, yep, there it is right there. Just stripped to bones, and he's just gonna come right back.
oh yeah, absolutely. So if we're done with this one, I guess we can move on to question number 2. And this is an interesting one, but do you prefer Wolverine flying solo or when he works together with the X-Men? Describe your reasoning. Who is
Can
going
I go
for?
with this one?
Sure.
I'm actually going to be the oddball out here, but I should kind of prefer him with the Avengers than the X-Men, because that's where, admittedly, a lot of my favorite highlights of Wolverine are at. Especially during like the late 2000s when the Dark Avengers were a thing and whatever. Like, so I don't know. I just enjoy his chemistry with the Avengers, like especially like Spider-Man, considering like that's his like surrogate son in a way, you know. But like barring that though, I do like his interactions with characters like Cyclops, you know, the classic, right? But most importantly, X-23, his daughter clone.
He has so many children at this point now. It's just like, how many kids do you have, man?
Yes.
He's a surrogate
I
dad.
mean, considering old as him, he have any.
Oh Lord. I mean, me personally, I do prefer him alone, but it's because you get to like really backtrack through some of his history, and he has a lot, and you just see like further and further all these memories starting to come up, and like certain theories of why he loses those memories. But it's just like learning his history and all like the shit he had to go through each and every single time, even before the Weapon X program, is just fascinating. And it's just like him going back to days like in Japan. And it's like, what else have you done? And each time I'm more and more fascinated, but also some of the classic love triangle between him and Cyclops and Jean Grey, even to the point now where it's still happening, just less.
Yep. I think it works fine personally, whether you like him solo or whether you like it with a team, because if he's with a team, then you know it's going to be the most interesting thing, because he's not really super team friendly at first, especially with people like Cyclops and of course that love triangle that was mentioned with Jean Grey. So that's an interesting dynamic. And then there's the fact that if he's solo, no one really knows like what's wrong with him in terms of the lost memory thing. So it's a huge blank spot and a backstory and amnesia that he's trying to figure out. And sometimes when that memory is recovered, it leads to situations like with him and Stryker, and how that sort of relationship maternalized, where it's like he practically made Wolverine stronger, and you know he's doing all this nefarious stuff behind the scenes, experimenting on children, and it gets pretty dark when he's unleashed and he kills like all these scientists, and it's just some very messed up, nasty stuff. So I think the story is deep to do both of these things, and as we elaborate on more media, we'll see more of that come to light as we speak about it later on. But
Oh, I agree. I also love his interaction when he has to be on a team, because his first inclination is just to murder really quickly or just take them out, because that's just training. And then see him on a team that he can't just immediately do that. It's like interesting because it's like it's a conflict because he can't just immediately pop claws.
I also like the dynamics between his rivals, in particular him and Hulk. Those two, you know, his first issue was going against the Hulk, right? So for those two to work together and literally become friends over time, though, it's kind of funny though, but still also taking the piss out of each other.
Yeah.
I kind of got a flashback to a scene from I'm about to mention this movie, but I think it was X-Men: The Last Stand, where they're in the danger room, and oh, good old Wolverine has Colossus throw him right to the Sentinel. The Sentinel's head. He cuts the head off. He talks with Cyclops later, and he's like, "Hey, you know, a good offense is a good defense." Oh wait, or is that the other way around? I don't know why. That's just so Wolverine. That's so Logan, to be honest.
Basketball special is super, super iconic.
Yeah, and,
It really is.
For me personally, I like solo Logan and I like team Logan, but I'm more accustomed to him being solo because kind of reminds me of a drifter in a sense.
Yeah, I actually can see that making a lot of sense, because because the thing about Logan is like he's always been like a loner, like he's kind of like the archetypical like jerk with a heart of gold.
Yeah, because I mean that's what the first X-Men film touched on. Because I mean he's a trucker, and it seems like he's just going from bar to bar, fight cage to fight cage, you know, barely getting by and everything. So I kind of like that side of Logan, where he's not used to being on a team and working together as a team. But there's also part of me that does like it when he knows how to coordinate attacks and defenses with a team. But I gotta say, I prefer solo.
yeah, I like both, but I don't mind when he's by himself, and I don't mind when it's like he needs Xavier's enthusiasm to really convince him that the school for the gifted is worth a damn. Because at first he was just like doing the fight cages with like Russian people and knocking them out. It's like, oh, okay, I see where you're going, Logan, but
Yeah.
the world's bigger than that. So I understand that part too. So it's kind of cool when it happens.
What
If you
do
really
they
think about
call
it-
you? Wheels?
What do you call you
my
weak?
God. If you really think about it, he's like the archetype of a Ronin, just constantly looking for like that new person he needs to follow, but he has a hard time following people. So it's like a kind of choosy. So he wanders a lot. So it's what I've always reminded me of, just like more of an old samurai archetype.
Yeah, Lanos. Yeah, you make a great point, Lanos. Yeah, because like I said, Wolverine like walks the earth and he sort of like goes on his own accord. You know, like a Ronin.
That kind of makes perfect sense considering the Japan storyline with Silver Serpent and how that goes.
And I mean, also like to go back to what you guys talked about with him and his memory loss. I mean, how can he really trust anybody or even himself if he doesn't really remember a whole lot about himself or where he came from?
Well, the solution to
It's
this is to
it's that internal conflict kind of thing that I like.
the solution to this is to shoot him with a adamantium bullet and have him heal like right after that. But that's another movie we're gonna talk about for the next question because the movie sucks. But I hate X-Men Origins so much. I really do.
I personally, on this question, I don't prefer either or because honestly, I'm more into the story of it all, and I'm always, even now, like just searching just origin stories, where stories hook up and link up, and so to me, it's important that there are solo Logan stories as well as team Logan stories because without one or the other, you would be missing huge parts of just either character development or storylines that make Logan who he is. And then I like when he does stuff with the Avengers too, especially one of the Infinity sagas when Loki tells him that he's going to invent the Infinity Dungarees. That was pretty funny to me.
So, are we all done with this question before we move on to number 3?
Yeah,
All right.
I'd say we're done.
All right. So, here we go. Have you seen any of the solo Wolverine films? Give your opinions on the following trilogy, and this includes X-Men Origins Wolverine, The Wolverine, and Logan. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Okay, so to be honest with you, I have not seen The Wolverine. I've heard from a lot of people it's a really good movie, but I have seen X-Men Origins and Logan. X-Men Origins is it's a guilty pleasure. Like it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's definitely entertaining. Like I really like what I've seen. Like it's got some really fun action scenes, but the story is just really not that great. Logan, on the other hand, man, that movie is just amazing. I just love everything about Logan's relationship with X-23, Xavier, and he's kind of like on his last legs, but at the same time, there's kind of like hope for like a brighter future with with his like surrogate daughter. And the ending, man, that got me in the feels, man. That was even like 5 years later. That still hits hard, But yeah, I love Logan. Great movie.
Anyone else?
I've seen all the Wolverine solo movies, and I gotta say, and there's part of me that loves all of them like a great deal, especially Wolverine Origins. I know people hate that movie so much, but there's worse X-Men related movies out there. Dog Phoenix. But what can you do? I liked all of them in their own way, especially the Wolverine. Because in the Wolverine, uh there's a part in it where he has to deal with basically being mortal. He has to deal with being mortal for the first time ever. And he tries to figure out, okay, how the hell am I going to work with this? I forgot what exactly happened. I think there was something that was attaching,
From
something got attached.
from what I understand, I think the old guy who's supposed to be Silver Serpent, he gave
Yeah, the Silver Samurai.
yeah, he gave Logan a promise saying that, you know what, you could be mortal, you could take this and live a life without pain. So he sort of gives that essence to him, and that's how he becomes mortal.
From what I remember out of Wolverine, I thought something happened where he got injected with something, and a thing attached to a mutant gland.
That probably could be the case as well, because I mean, it's 100% guaranteed that he gets his powers like back at the end of the movie.
Because he ends up having to cut into his body and yank it out and risk it being 50-50 that he may not live long enough for the regeneration ability to kick in. But that was, well, I'll talk about that later. But regardless, though, I liked all the Logan Solo movies. So, yeah.
What?
I was that. So I absolutely hated Origins, and there's not a single person who could talk me into ever liking Wolverine Origins. To me personally, the movie got leaked way too early, and then after that, they basically just gave up on giving us a good movie. Because it wasn't good. I would even put it right next to Dark Phoenix. There is nothing desirable. I've watched it once, never watched it ever again. The Wolverine was actually one of my favorite out of the trilogy, just because of the dilemma that he had to go through. He was attacked by another mutant whose powers were able to basically nullify the abilities of other mutants. And so he lost his powers. There's like this organism inside of him from this other mutant. And so he ends up losing his powers, and then he has to, figure out how to work with losing his powers, because it's not like they're all just happening at once. He was losing them slowly and having to deal with each one at a time. And it accumulates to him, understanding that, for him to be who he is, he has to be immortal. And, he pulls out the thing, and that continues that story. Logan was a great movie to me as far as closing off the story, especially of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I absolutely loved every moment of that movie, his relationship with his surrogate, and, the ending definitely didn't make me cry, but I felt like they did one of the best justices to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in that movie, with finalizing that story.
I guess I'll continue and give my perspective. I don't like Origins that much. There is some entertainment to be had in a dumb way. Like, I can't say it's like painstakingly boring or anything like that, but some of the choices they did with like mute pull where he couldn't talk, and that happened, and then some of the CGI, it's like Hollow Heart said, the movie got leaked, and I remember the effects were worse, so they just simply said, screw it, we're just gonna do it anyway and finish it anyway, because why not? And it lived up to the trash that it was. I didn't like the fact that Wolverine survived the adamantium bullet to the head, because that makes like no sense to me. Stryker was lame in this movie. It's so weird because he's very intimidating and almost creepy in X2, and now he's just like a regular dude that just does the mustache twirling villain thing. And I was like, I don't remember Stryker being just this horrible. Like, of course he does horrible things, but in terms of the character, it wasn't convincing enough for me. And I like some things like Gambit was pretty cool in that movie. He was awesome, but it didn't last for way too long. And then they changed Nightcrawler's dad to be a random cowboy, and I was just like, what the only things I really liked is just Jackman doing stuff. I didn't mind the new Sabretooth because Liv Schreiber, he was awesome. And I didn't mind Ryan Reynolds before he was mute pulled, but everything else was just so
I go next.
I just want to go on Logan like real quick because I didn't see
Sorry, my apologies.
it's cool. I didn't see the Wolverine, so I'll skip that. But Logan was a very emotional film. Really good too. Focused on, of course, him having the adamantium in his body, so he's dying. It's like time's running out. Xavier is going crazy as well because that wasn't mentioned, but his brain is all screwed up, so he has these random panic attacks, and he will kill anyone in sight that gets close, and they'll have a giant headache. So this is why most of the mutants are dead during this time period, which is just sad, man, to think that all the X-Men are gone because Xavier now has like dementia. So it's just a sad, depressing movie, but the actors really push it and carry it. And I think the relationship between Logan and X-23 was awesome in that film. The fights were awesome. The gore was just absolutely crazy. I remember he chopped that guy's arm off with the shotgun, and I was just like, oh my god, the berserker rage is fantastic. But I can't get that movie higher praise than it already has, so that's how I feel about it. So I'm gonna let Mr. Brandon go.
Yeah, I know it's a common trend here. Not many people have seen the Wolverine, or at least remember it.
It just slipped under the radar for me.
Yeah, it really did. Because like I remember watching it, but I remember nothing about it aside from maybe the cameo ending. Because like everybody would probably remember that one if you've seen the movie, right? But
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was agreeing. I'm like, I remember the cameo.
But the one thing I will defend X-Men Origins on is that yeah, sure, Wolverine gets shot in the head and missing bullet seems out of place, whatever. But if the man can survive a nuke, why can't he survive a bullet to the head?
I think it's weird because in that movie they described him sort of forgetting his memories due to that. When if you remember in Logan with the Wolverine clone or whatever, he just gets straight up shot in the head with an adamantium bullet. He's dead. Like that's just it.
Oh, true. That's a little inconsistency there, though. But I'm like, like if he can take a nuke, he could definitely take a bullet.
Well, yeah. It's also one of those things. Like a bullet to the brain has been shown in every comic back. That it's like that means absolutely nothing.
Oh yeah, for normal bullets, I do agree, but for that, it was just like. It was just kind of weird to me, and not to mention, there's a lot more wrong with that ending than ever because it was just like, hey, let's let Stryker go. and the woman with the psychic powers, they never explained her at all. So I was just like, why is she even here? She's just like Wolverine's concubine, but they didn't describe what she does. And that was weird. That was Psylocke? Oh my god.
It was?
If that was Psylocke, I would be so mad because she just looks like a random NPC to me.
Yeah, that's literally 3 different Psylocks in this fucking franchise.
Oh man.
Yeah, they just keep changing. Oh Lord.
Olivia Munn. Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna finish up my point though. I do have a soft spot for the for Origins because like one, the actors honestly got carried that movie. Story sucks ass. The CG's ass though, but the actors, especially Gambit, like Gambit was the thing that keeps me going for that movie. And I'm sad that he's barely in it because he honestly got along with Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds just carries that movie. When Ryan Reynolds can talk. So the Wolverine, don't remember much about it aside from the cameo ending. I already mentioned that. But Logan, I would say, is definitely between the two of them. Obviously, the best one. It's totally consistent. It's based on one of the best Wolverine stories ever. Or not, and of course the usual, the sad ending. When Wolverine died. So yeah, it was definitely one of the better comic book movies that are about solo character.
Just play the X-Men animated theme over his death, and you'll be 10 times more happy.
Oh Lord. For me, I just on trend, the mere fact that Origins was, let's just put it straight, garbage. It was, the league didn't help it, but from CGI claws to just immensely lazy writing to, for some reason, deciding that Deadpool, the Merc was a mouth, is mute, which made no sense whatsoever. There was just too many.
Hated him.
It's just like, it was a mess altogether. It was a mess of a movie that was just put forward because they thought it would sell because it's Wolverine, and they thought, don't really have to put that much effort into it. But following that, after they learned their lesson as it bombed, the Wolverine was, what, in my opinion, in comparison to Logan, the best Wolverine and superhero movie of a Wolverine movie. Logan is a film in comparison, which can be very, very different. Like, Logan was the first time I was like, without having any of the history, without having any of these, knowing that much about X-Men or anything else, you can watch it from start to end, enjoy it, and it is literally a film. The Wolverine, you have to have some information, but it is a great, great movie. Like, from the bullet train scene to the... there's a lot of good moments in that, and just seeing him having to be human, as that was spoken before, is seeing such a mortal human moment from him, where he's not just like a I take shit and I'm the best at what I do, like, flippant attitude, where he has to actually break down as a person, and you start realizing those different aspects of what makes Logan Wolverine and what makes Logan Logan. It's a fascinating, like, insight into it. And the fight scenes were amazing, and it showed a rated R film of a superhero movie could do well. Like that and Deadpool, if written correctly and not just rated R for rated R's sake, you can do a really great film if you don't limit them. But yeah, I like Logan the best because it is an actual just like full on film, but the Wolverine is such a great film to watch. But I'll watch Origins if I feel like I'm having a guilty pleasure. I was like, oh, this is a garbage movie. I know it's going to be bad. I'm watching it. It's terrible. Okay, let's move on. But that's just my opinion.
Anyone else on these films before we move on to the next one? Oh, going once, going twice. Sold to the Lady Deathstrike in red. So we're gonna move on to question number 4, and this is related to the team up movies that are the other X-Men movies. But did you see any of those with Logan in them? And if so, what is your favorite Logan moment in those X-Men team up movies?
Oh, I'm gonna go on this one.
Go ahead.
It'll be short and sweet. In the first movie, when he flipped off everybody else in the metal detector, it's such a subtle but cheesy joke. But that and I would say the Fastball special in X-Men 3.
Mine's quick and simple too. I like a lot of scenes with him, but my favorite scene, if you're just really going to break it down as a character in a nutshell, is the first class scene. It's very quick. He shows up and nowhere else in the film. They show up, try to recruit him, and he says, fuck off. And I'm like, that's Wolverine right there. If you want a scene to encapsulate who he is, that scene right there.
Oh no,
So
I actually think in Days of Future Past, yeah, it's that one where he says "fuck off" Xavier to him, and then in that one he says "go fuck yourself" when they come in, and then it's like, bro, let's just leave.
It's a constant.
Yep.
I forgot to mention one too. When Beast was tossing Wolverine around in that movie. Yeah. You remember he was antagonizing him, and then Beast actually got mad and started tossing his ass across the house until he made it to Xavier.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that I forgot about that scene.
I think I remember that scene. It's been a while since I've seen the movie.
Yeah, Beast was not having it in that movie, and I think he was great. See, I have one moment that's actually in Days of Future Past, and it's when he first spawns into the body and he finds out that it's him, and he doesn't realize that he's banging like a mafia mob boss's daughter or whatever, and then Wolverine tries talking to the bodyguards. He's like, "What? You slept with her?" He's like, "Well, I didn't sleep with her. I mean, yes, I slept with her, but you know, it's just a common mistake." And then they shoot him. It's just pure chaos in that scene before he goes off and he slices them up. But that was a really great moment in that movie.
There's just way too many moments. I mean, that scene in Days of Future Past when he first wakes up in his past body, and he's ready to kick ass. He looks down and he's like, "Oh wait, these are my bone. This is my bone claw. Where's my adamantium? Oh wait, that hasn't happened yet."
Yep.
I like that scene. This is probably gonna make some people laugh. I honestly thought it was heartbreaking when I think this is like the only scene I liked out of The Last Stand, where Logan actually stabs Jean
Oh.
I remember that.
while Jean is tearing his trying to tear his cells apart, and he's like, "Jean, I love you," and then he stabs her because that to him that was the only way to get her to stop at that
Yep.
point.
That was a good
She was
moment
still
until
gone.
you realize that they could have just killed her and her powers would have been gone.
Yeah, but we all know who to blame for that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Then like Brandon said, the scene under the scene at the Statue of Liberty,
Oh yeah, that was a great fight.
the shop, and he comes back after supposedly killing Mystique, and Cyclops is about to like blast him, and Logan's like, "Whoa, wait, it's me," and he's like, "How do we know? You're a dick." He's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
seems legit."
I think it was an X2 when the soldiers are coming in and they're like going to abduct the students, and just seeing him just lose his shit because he's like the ultimate babysitter essentially.
Didn't they censor that scene?
Yes, I love that so much when the guys with guns were coming in to kidnap the mutant kids. He was going ballistic, and he was even getting shot with the tranks, and he's like, "That doesn't affect me. What are you doing?"
Wasn't that scene censored? Because I remember MPA was being like assholes to Bryan Singer, and they were like, "You can't show him full on stabbing the guard," and then Bryan Singer was like, "Fuck off, I'm gonna put this in my extended edition where he like pins him against the wall and stabs him, and he just stands there for like 7 seconds." Yeah, they wanted to cut that scene like down super hard.
Yeah, that's why extended versions are usually the best when it comes to so many things, because so many times it's like, no, you need to censor that because for some reason we need to whittle down the rating because it's Wolverine. It's like, that doesn't make any sense with a Wolverine film. That's why the Wolverine film did better, because you could actually show him fully at what he does best, which is murder.
Yeah, don't forget his yells when he's going full rage. That's
Oh,
why
the
I like
Berserker,
in
yeah.
X-Men 2 when he goes berserk. Just just a fucking scream. I love it. We better hear that in the next Deadpool movie. We better.
I don't mean to interrupt anyone.
Oh, go ahead.
Go.
Really? Well, you guys listed a lot of great moments, and there was one that I remember. It was when remember when Wolverine fought Lady Deathstrike in X2, I believe.
Yes.
That was a really cool fight scene. I really liked it. It was kind of, especially like how it ended. Like it was kind of like it's kind of funny too, really, because it was like in that movie she was like portrayed very sympathetically, and her death was like, it wasn't like super gruesome. It was just kind of like really simple.
If I
really
remember
liked that one.
correctly, he
Mhm.
pumped her full of adamantium. So once that happened, not only was she dead, but she drowned too because she couldn't get back up. So
Mm,
that was a crazy death.
Oh yeah.
Is it
Fun fact.
Is it me or that scene felt like a slap fight at a certain point? Because they're just like going back and forth. I'm like, this is just a slap fight between two antimantium, like
Yeah, essentially.
aggressive types.
Yeah.
They were stabbing each other left and right. Wolverine getting flipped off. He stabbed her with something else. Like Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I still love the fact when we first see her bring out her nails. He's like, holy
Oh,
shit.
shit.
Holy shit.
Damn. Man, I wonder what her nail, I wonder how like her nail treatment goes whenever she goes to like the salon.
I thought you were going to say something else. But
This is a
continue.
fun fact I want to share.
Mhm.
Apparently, she was actually going to make it back in X-Men 3, but she got cut.
Oh really?
Yeah.
How come? Was it?
I don't remember the story significance per se though, but they were going to bring her back in some way as like I think she's going to join up with Logan.
Mhm.
But for
God.
a reason though, she got cut out from the movie entirely. I think the actress confirmed it.
I'm really glad there was already too much going on in that film to begin with. It was
Yeah, extra is
There's
fat.
not going to the-
on though, but I think
Oh, God.
Leather Strike deserved something after what happened. Like she was going against her out of her will, So
Mhm.
like I think she deserved a second chance of some kind though. But
Oh, I don't disagree. I just think there was just like the film itself is like there's so much going on in that film, and that's why it doesn't really work that well. Adding more is just already just shit on top of the pile at that point. Even though
Yeah.
the actress does deserve more from that role itself, especially for how close that role is supposed to be to Logan.
Yeah, and I wish she got her memories back, but again, Last Stand is just, it's chock full of stuff. That's one thing to cover one of these days.
Stand, air quotes.
Yeah, the last X-Men movie, because it surely wasn't. Oh man.
Nope.
It was not a good movie. It was.
Don't worry, they followed it up
alright.
with Origins, so you know.
Oh man.
God, the movie with Barakapool. Just no.
I have one more favorite moment. It's the one in I forget which X-Men is. I think it's the first one where Wolverine and Cyclops, they have the little dick measuring contest, and then he goes to the car and he's like, I'm gonna take this for a spin, and then he comes back and
That
then
was two.
oh, that's two. Okay, so he just turns his car into a convertible. He just says, I made you do convertible, and it was all sliced up. Is X-Men 1 the one where he gives him the middle finger with the claw, or am I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mentioned
it is.
That's the one. That right there, just classic.
I mean-
I don't know why, but that's so stupid and subtle that it works.
I mean, there was also the Mystique stop hitting yourself moment.
or like I made a reference a while ago when he says, what do they call you? Wheels?
Wait, hold on. Which isn't one of these X-Men movies where Mystique gets on top of him and she turns into him?
Yeah, that's the stop hitting yourself moment. The first X-Men film was done so well because it has so many of those moments. It's like, yeah, this is an X-Men film.
Yeah, I got a question.
Babyface Hugh Jackman.
Nope.
Still can't believe it. Like, he fits the role so well for being such a tall man playing a role for a very short person. So it's just like,
Didn't they like retroactively make Wolverine taller because of that?
I actually don't think so.
no, they filmed it kind of like they did with like the Gimli film scenes in Lord of the Rings, where they filmed it where it made him look smaller. As
No,
a
I'm talking about for
person.
the comics. Like, did they make him taller in the comics because of
No.
Hugh Jackman's
No.
popularity?
No,
No, he's still short as hell. He's still super short.
only in the renditions where he has the Hugh Jackman likeness did they keep him the same height, and I mean that makes sense.
But for the most part, he's still, I think, 5'3".
Yeah, he's still short as fuck.
He looks taller than that though in a lot of shots. Though I'm just saying, like,
Well, there's only so much you could do. But for what they did, for how tall he actually is, they did a fantastic job.
all right, actually, I got a question to ask since we're talking about the movies itself.
Sure.
Which character do you like Logan's interaction with the most, or at least the most memorable to you? You know, the one that stand out to me would be in First Class when he interacts with Magneto, especially in the plane where they mention like buffaloes and survivors and stuff, and then he put him to the test later by binding him to metal and toss him in the sea.
Oh.
I would. I think it's because it's more heartwarming for me. I like the relationship between Logan and Rogue in the first
Yes,
X-Men
his first
movie.
arc.
I actually like that a lot. How he was like really patient. Well, not at first patient with her, but over time he's just like, well, looks like I'm stuck with you, kid. Like that kind of attitude, and she just kind of grows on him. I did like that, especially when he accidentally stabs her when he's having a nightmare
Wolverine's
because
like,
of the memories coming back in his nightmares. I did like that because he felt so awful because he thought like he killed her until he finds out what her power is.
that's Wolverine's like 88th daughter in live action media, whereas in the comics everybody's trying to bang Rogue.
Oh, God.
No, right though. But oh, good.
I was gonna say, I think for me, it's either with Laura, like, you know, X-23. I thought that relationship was really, really done well, but I also kind of just enjoy his relationship with Xavier, like just the different interactions over time, where it's like he's kind of like a father figure, and at other points it's just something that just annoys the fuck out of him. I think their relationship over time, even though you come to find out how that really worked out, is a really interesting relationship. But the heartwarming one is more like the X-23 and seeing himself in that kid and just how like, oh, I can make a change in this so you don't have to become me. And that kind of relationship, I think, worked really, really well.
Yep, Lano's pretty much took my answer. I was gonna say Xavier, but yeah, for the reasons described, I like that he's Logan's sort of the hothead and Xavier's like the optimistic one trying to talk sense into him. And then usually sometimes it works, usually sometimes it doesn't. And I also agree with the X-23 because that's the sort of father-daughter relationship that just works really well between the two.
Yeah, that sentiment right there stands really well at X-Men 3, when those two were butted heads over how Xavier handled Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I never agree with that. The hothead versus the, wherever Xavier was.
Which I think makes it such a great dichotomy and role reversal when you're going into the Logan scene where Xavier's in the bed and it's Logan trying to be the optimistic one and Xavier being the realistic one of like, hey, you have to kill me. That kind of moment.
Yeah, I did like, and I will say one thing I did like in the third X-Men movie. It had to have been when it's revealed what Charles did to Jean, and instead of Xavier teaching Logan a lesson, which is normally the case in the X-Men movies, it's the other way around, and Logan was giving Charles a lecture, going, "You do realize when you cage a beast, the beast is going to get angrier and angrier the longer it's caged, right? It's not going to be happy. And Xavier's like, oh, well, I guess I screwed up. But I don't know. I did like that, the little role reversal in 3, where instead of Logan being taught a lesson, it was Xavier. And yeah, Xavier learned the hard way with that one.
It's kind of the same with Days of Future Past, because Xavier's like a drunk in that movie after First Class. So Logan is the one trying to talk sense into him, and Xavier's the one that's like, fuck off, get out of my house. So it's another role reversal, which works really well when it's on when the shoe's on the other foot.
I did like seeing that in Days. He's like, what was it that you told me once before? Oh yeah, fuck off.
I like that scene, I'm not gonna lie, because it's not even what he said, but someone pointed out, he's so drunk and distraught that he doesn't remember anything from First Class at that point, just the most basic stuff, and even then he gets it wrong. So that's what I really like about that movie, just the callbacks.
It's just so petty in that moment. It's just like, it's so petty.
Yep.
But anyone else on this before we move on to the next one? Oh, going once, going twice. So to the hooker, Emma Frost in white. All right. Now we're gonna talk about the games here, and it's a lot of them, but you can cherry pick between them. But how do you feel about every release Wolverine game and X-Men title that included him? Do you think they were done effectively or poorly? Cite your reasoning between the games you've played. There's a lot, so who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll go real quick.
Okay.
The games that I've played, whether it was X-Men related with Wolverine added into it, or a Wolverine solo game. As far as the X-Men games, there have been some, at least 1 or 2 that were good, but there's quite a few by our good pals from the past, LJN, who really dropped the ball extremely hard. Like Wolverine, for example, on the NES, where the claws causes you to get damaged the longer you have him out, as well as Wolverine taking fall damage. So, also, how slow he is to, dodge or crouch or whatever. Yeah, it was very, very awful. I got PTSD from that. Just the mere fact of the matter is, his primary, weapon is the adamantium claw. And that's dealing you damage when you're using it? Nah, that's not good. The only Wolverine game that I know of for sure that was really good was the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC version of Wolverine Origins.
I guess I'll go next on this one. It's not gonna be that long, but so the main one I've played X-Men related with him in it that I really enjoyed was obviously X-Men Legends 1 and 2. I think they were really great games, great RPGs, really demonstrated all of the characters perfectly. If you want my honest opinion, it was the precursor to Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and that was also done well. So I really enjoy seeing him in that, and cutting up Mystique was one of the most euphoric moments ever, because gosh, she's a nightmare on the harder modes. I could not stand her. But I would say for Wolverine games in particular, I did play X2 Wolverine's Revenge, and that game is really, really rough, because They want you to do all these mechanics and sneak around a lot in a stealth game. And I understand, you could be stealthy with Wolverine, but the problem is Wolverine is a fighter, so they want you to sneak around for a good majority of the game using these strange feral senses that are weird, and then the combat is very, very convoluted and wonky at the same time. Plus, there's traps that could kill you in like 5 seconds, whether it's machine guns or whatever. You're Wolverine, so you can't take that at all in that game, which is very, very strange. I would not recommend it. The only great thing about that game is that Mark Hamill is the voice of Wolverine. That's about it, and it just works. Like it's just great. Outside of that, though, that gameplay is sus. Then I play X-Men Origins Wolverine, the Uncaged edition, and I thought that was an amazing experience. Bloody, gory, absolutely disgusting. The best marketing pitch for that game is you can take a guy out of a helicopter and shove his head into the rotor, and that's the selling pitch of the entire demo. It's so cool, man. It's like people say, hey, it's God of War influence, but it's one of the clones that really did it right with that sort of style. I'm hoping as we get on to later questions that Insomniac takes a look at that game and sort of sees and says, hey, we got a blueprint right here. But I loved it personally, and I think that's about it for Wolverine games. I've not played the one on the NES, but I've heard about the claws hurting you, which is, it's not poison animanium, so it makes no sense. He's like in his prime, so I really don't like the sound of that.
I believe the game was the Uncanny X-Men, of the NES one, that is just
that's even
god
worse.
awful.
That's even worse.
Yeah, there's been some terrible adaptations, to be completely honest. There's just been some really, really, really bad ones, like Marvel Avengers Battle for Earth. That was also pretty bad. But there's always been some weird adaptations that have Wolverine, and it's like, why is he in there? Kind of like when he was a Tony Hawk Pro Skater model for like the Canada levels, or the really weird Quake conversion mod. That you're like, I think it was called the Ravages of Apocalypse, maybe. But it was just like a weird, like, you're shooting the X-Men now. There's Wolverine. He won't die. Oh God. But there's been some really good highlights. He gets shown so well in fighting games because he's a fighter, so he fits really well. So yeah, you got Marvel vs. Capcom. You also have X-Men: Children of the Atom. Like, these are really, really good examples of Wolverine as a character in games. But I would like to make an honorable mention that it's much of a trash game as it was the Spider-Man Web of Shadows. His character from like the web dark part of the Venomized Wolverine was a highlight of that game because it was terrifying.
Oh, dude.
Yes, he was.
I agree, Lanos. Like, he was really fun in that game, especially when Peter was fighting him, and like Wolverine throws a question at him, and you have to like answer correctly, otherwise the fight just keeps going. Really neat.
But yeah, my last point would be, like, I agree with Ren on X-Men Origins Wolverine. For as trash of an adaptation the movie was, that game showed the true brutality of Wolverine, and I really do hope Insomniac's taking notes, because it's like, this is what you can do, and with upgraded technology, you could do a fantastic job, especially if what they've done with Spider-Man and Miles Morales. Like, there's a lot you can do, and this would be a great example to borrow from.
Yeah, because real quick, yeah, I did really love X-Men Origins Wolverine. It was a really fun time, especially when you fought Blob in the Superman. That was definitely great. I'll give it to someone else.
Oh yeah, there's two things I want to mention real quick. Wolverine's also in Ultimate Spider-Man, and you can fight him if you're playing as Venom. And I remember like I don't know why I did this stupid shit, trying to consume him. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna eat you for breakfast, it'll be fine. And then he just breaks out, and he's like, nope, not today, bub. But I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome.
Does he damage you?
Yes, he hurts you. Each time you try to eat him, that's like, I want to say 20% health gone. And symbiote Wolverine is like just the creepiest thing ever. Like, I don't, that and Web of Shadows and what they did with that was awesome. Like, just symbiote Wolverine or symbiote Daredevil is like the creepiest fucking shit I've ever seen, and I hope that comes into play with the later question.
Does anyone remember the arcade game, like the X-Men arcade game? Because that one
I
was
do,
also
yes.
a lot of fun. It was like a weird beat 'em up.
Welcome to
Yeah, I
Dawn.
actually played it before, right next to Marvel's Capcom 2 in arcades.
Yeah, that game was really good as well. Just playing. I think that's the one with like you can play as 6 people and just completely annihilate everything, which is awesome. I love it. On their symbiote Wolverine. So, anyone else on this question before we move on?
Yeah, I actually didn't go, but everyone kind of took it as well. You know, it's either like mentioned Web of Shadows Wolverine, is either Origins, but I'm gonna say like the fighting games, like Marvel's Capcom series of Wolverine. Like, no, that's probably the best rendition of Wolverine because no, they didn't hold back, especially in 3 in particular. He gave him everything like Berserker Barrage, that weird X thing he can do. So yeah, it's simple.
I just kept like doing drill claw and people just kept jumping into it. I'm like, why? Why do you do this?
I don't know. Why does a sweep work in most fighting games and people just keep letting that happen?
I don't know. It's hey, that's a free win, as they say. You just win for free in that case.
That's MK in a nutshell. You're an idiot, you get swept on, literally.
Gotta watch for them footsies, man. They're the devil.
Watch the feet or watch the anti-air, because Wolverine was just like all over it. Like he's one of those rushdown characters in Marvel, which is why I like him so much. You pair him up with like a couple of rushdowners or zoners, that's it, because they're just gonna keep getting chipped in the corner. That's what I did when someone was playing as Sentinel, and I was just like, you know what, you stay over there in the corner. Yep, I'll just keep doing the dive kick. And he just keeps doing nothing. It's like, that's the best thing ever playing as him in Marvel vs. Capcom. Drill claw, yes. Anyone else have anything to add on this question? Oh,
No, I'm good.
okay. So we're gonna move on to the next one. Do you agree with the logic that X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged is the definitive Wolverine game? Yes or no? What is the opinion on this majority one?
Yeah, that's a PS3 game, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say so. I mean, granted, it's probably one of the only few ones we have that is, good. It's not saying a whole lot.
I mean, if we're talking about, go ahead. Sorry, cut you off.
No, that's yeah, it's one of the few games that actually, got Wolverine's brutality right when he's by himself, not with a team or anything, not cut out robots. Him versus the world. Like, that's basically what it is. It does that pretty damn well. So yeah, I would say so, like, definitive way of having Wolverine. For now, let's see what Sonic has to offer. Simple as it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a nice blueprint, as we talked about, where Logan's brutality. One thing I really hope that's incorporated is that lunge move, because I thought that move was amazing, where you could just like jump on somebody and just keep clawing them to death. That was pretty cool, as well as the idea that you could take people's weapons, use it against them, throw them against the wall, you know what I mean, and do this giant like whirlwind move where you can cut like people into 80,000 giblets. So it was one of those games that had a lot of options, despite being mostly labeled as, oh, it's just a clone of God of War during the time. And it was varied enough to stand out on his own, because once again, Logan is short range, so he has to jump on people to get them, which is also cool. And you could also do air combos and stuff like that. I think one of my favorite things to do in that game was actually go into the Cerebro battle room and just fight the other Wolverine, because you get a trophy for that. Fight the other Wolverine in Cerebro, and then you will be able to get more XP experience, stuff like that, classic costumes. So they had a lot to give, and plus, it's like Lano said, the movie was just absolutely a mess in storytelling, but the game did a pretty decent job at telling you, hey, this is real origin story as a soldier, going back and raiding all these people and whatnot, and it kept you engaged for the entire time. And you can fight Gambit on top of these giant letters in the casino part, which was pretty cool, like fighting him, and it was an extended sequence, so you see more of him. So they did everything right in terms of movie adaptation, where they expanded on a lot and added lore and trimmed the fat on the really, really bad parts, like, you know, the parts where he's like with the family and everything. But unfortunately, Mute Pool is the final boss, so I don't think they could have done anything outside of that. Sure, I would have loved if they changed him, but since he's the final boss, you gotta deal with it. You could just kill him like in 5 seconds if you wanted to, because he's pretty easy, and just cut his head off, which is always awesome. Oh, and you see the gore, actually. I forgot the movie censored that. So if you want to see him get his head cut off legit, then you have to play the game to find that out. But that's about it for me.
For me, I'll agree. Like, it is the definitive game. Granted, there's not like a huge ton of just solo Wolverine games for it to really be that. I mean, before that came out, I think it was between Adamantium Rage and Wolverine's Rage, which, naming mechanics, come on, change it up a little bit, were like the core games that like kind of got the essence, which is bad when one of them is a Game Boy Color game. So I think really for Insomniac, like, they just got to do better than the Origins one, but I would love to see it really, really do well. But for definitive games, I think right now the Uncaged edition is probably the closest we're going to get to a definitive one for now.
Yeah, and one more thing I wanted to add is I think that was the coolest sort of healing factor system that they did, where it's like in real time you can see Logan's guts blown out and see them heal in real time. Like it doesn't look as disgusting as some of the graphics these days, but with the next one it was just crazy seeing the entire exoskeleton come off and just heal slowly back if you stood still, which was pretty awesome in that game. And it's just a lot to love, like the blob in the supermarket stabbing him in the back and all that stuff. Just really a solid entry all around. I know they had a previous gen entry without the gore, and when I looked at that, I was like, this is a completely different game. They Spider-Man 2 that when they actually ported that to like PC, because it's radically different, but it is bloodless, so some of that carnage is definitely gone. I haven't played it as a game. Some people say they're mixed on the entire premise of that game itself. They say it's good, some say it's bad, but I have not played it personally.
Oh yeah, I did play the PS2 Wolverine game. Well, but I thought it was okay. It was annoying, but I thought it was okay. But yeah, I do agree that the Uncaged edition is the definitive Wolverine game. It captured, like everybody else said, it captures Logan's character, how he fights and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just think the essence of the character is important, and that's the most important thing they nailed in that game so far. So who made that game? Raven Software? I bet Activision just got rid of them. I'm 100% positive.
I would not be surprised.
They're Call of Duty concentration camp right now.
So yeah, they got sent to the co-op mines. They just hate it. Oh man. But you know, at least Phil's in there, so he might do something. We'll see. Well,
yeah, it was Raven Software. It was.
Yeah.
Oh, rip.
Sad, man. It's so sad. But we're gonna move on to the next one. This is probably the big one. So to follow up on that, how do you feel about the announcement that Insomniac Games is working on a new Wolverine title, and it probably won't come out until 2025, considering the reports, which makes me a little angry, but I just want my hands on this sooner. But what do you think about this?
Honestly, I'm excited. I mean, considering the amazing work that considering the fact, you know, the amazing work Insomniac did with Spider-Man and Miles Morales, I think it's in good hands.
Yeah, same. Astounding gameplay mechanics. I felt like they built on that properly, as well as capturing everything Spider-Man is known for. That ending just still stings for Spider-Man PS4 because y'all. But I feel like Miles Morales was a really great addition gameplay wise to that character as well, adding in the lightning and everything. So I know they're gonna do a really great job with Wolverine. The second that I heard that is going to be rated mature and it's going to be a full-fledged game, it's not going to be standalone, it's not going to be DLC, it's going to be standalone and M-rated. I was like, yes, give this game to me immediately. And the person writing this worked on Spec Ops: The Line, and I remember that story being like really magnificent, great, twisting and turning your emotions and everything, and you're questioning if anything is real in this game. So since they have that writer and that talent on board, it's just a matter of when, because I think the day that they show gameplay, I'm going to lose my fucking mind.
Yeah, but for me, I am really excited to see how they're Insomniac's gonna take on Wolverine, because the thing is too, like, I don't think they've ever done like a full M-rated game. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know most of the games they've done.
No, they have Resistance.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is the first time they're doing like full they've done M-rated games before. Okay, so it's gonna be really interesting how they like do Wolverine's gameplay. Like, if they'll take in elements from X-Men Origins Wolverine, but like fine tune them into like a really fun gameplay experience. I have to ask, but do you think the game is gonna be like a linear story game, or do you think it's gonna be like open ended?
I don't. That's, you know what? I'm gonna say this right now. I'm put my money on wide linear, something to the effect of like Uncharted 4, where it's not full on narrow hallways. I don't expect that. Maybe in like if they have like a Weapon X level or something, but I think it's gonna be a little bit bigger than what is anticipated, but it's not gonna be open world, because I don't think that works. That works for Spider-Man, but not for Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Because Wolverine's gonna be more like it's gonna be more akin to like a beat 'em up, like, you know, hack and slash, and Spider-Man's more like you're swinging around, you know, stopping criminals around New York City. So yeah, but I am definitely really excited. I don't mind the game coming out in 2025 as long as Insomniac, you know, really polishes up to make it this like amazing gem when it, you know, launches. Yeah, I'm excited. Cannot wait.
Yeah.
I honestly see them doing it a little bit more story oriented, because there's to really kind of get down into Wolverine, there's going to be a lot of different mechanics beyond just going into a berserker rage. Especially, they're probably going to take advantage of what other games have tried to do, but weirdly tried to implement, like some of the more other senses. Like, he's fairly known for his sense of smell and enhanced like hearing and just overall senses. So I wouldn't doubt that they would probably utilize that. And I don't know. I don't see it being as sandboxy. Probably just because they want to divert it. I think it might be a little bit more linear, but I could be completely wrong here. I just don't think they're going to fall in the same kind of footsteps that they did it with like Miles Morales and Spider-Man, because they're taking on a whole different character. So some of the freeform may change a little bit.
Yep. I think it's going to be base rating. You might be in the jungle for a bit doing stuff and chopping up people, as well as exploring Logan's Pass. I think I said this before on Twitter. I think a great stage would be the Japan arc, where he's like going there and he's trying to, you know, start a relationship there with post Lady Deathstrike and everything, and everything starts going to shit. So I think that's a perfect area to have like these big neon lights and maybe fighting Yakuza members and chopping them up into confetti as they have like swords and everything, and you're fighting with them. That would be awesome. We've never seen that happen in a game quite yet, so that's something to pluck from in terms of the tree.
I mean, honestly, that's where I think they're going, because that's what I meant by like there's so much history. I would not doubt that there's going to be time jumping in this. There's a lot to cover.
Oh, absolutely.
And if they really want to be able to kind of like throw in a lot of diversity into the game, that's the best way to go about it.
Yep. those blank spots in Logan's past are definitely going to be covered because, like, X-Men Origins tried to do it, but it wasn't as in depth. And Logan's been everywhere because he's been alive for like years, so it's a lot to go through. But anyone else on this? Anyone else on this question?
I was just gonna say that I'm excited for it just from the simple standpoint of gaming technology. I'd like to see what they plan to do with Logan as a character because, as even Lanos has said, Logan has these extra abilities outside of adamantium, skeleton, claws, etc. And it'd be interesting to see those mechanics used in the game. Especially like stealth missions, using your sense of smell to kind of pinpoint, or not necessarily pinpoint, but get a general idea of where the bad guy is. As we've seen in some games already, like Cyberpunk, using your tech to see through walls and shit.
Yeah, I saw it in chat. I don't think they ever really nailed the feral sense in Wolverine games too properly because sometimes it was a sensory overload. In this one, they have work to do it and make it simple. I think the best comparison I can make is the detective mode in Batman Arkham Origins and the rest of the Arkham games. I think it's just perfect with how they do it there, and you recreate the crime and stuff like that. I haven't seen that nailed in Wolverine, but now's the perfect opportunity to do so with the sense of smell and tracking through the environment and hunting and doing particular stealth mechanics that are a lot more fun than how it was in Origins, because I don't think that was a strong point of that game, to be honest.
Yeah,
really, there's a lot of games to borrow from now, so
yep.
Those go.
Honestly, I was just gonna say, I mean, given how the first like little tease that we got of the first like announcement, seeing Logan at the bar, it seems like he's most likely not with the X-Men yet, or if he is, he's doing probably soul searching like he did at the end of the first X-Men movie and before the events of X-Men 2. So maybe in this one he's either doing soul searching or he hasn't met the X-Men yet and he's just a drifter, and then some shit happens. That means Wolverine. Anything's possible.
Oh man, I don't. When it comes to the voice actors wanting to grab that role, God, I would love to hear it, because I know David Hayter said he's down and Steve Bloom said he's down. I'm like, damn it, I like both of them. I can't have both. So who is gonna?
Yeah,
I gotta go with my boy Steve, man. I'm sorry. Like, I love David.
Come on, Bloom.
Actually, I don't mean to. Actually, to interject, I wouldn't mind Elias Tofexis in the role of Wolverine. Adam Jensen.
He wants it too, so it's like, okay, I love Steve Bloom, but these
I never asked for this.
These other two guys are just as good. So I would like all of them to have it, but they can't. So you got to pick one.
I'll just say hypothetically, if Steve couldn't do the role though, then I would say sure, get someone else though. But if Steve opened, then he's my man. I'm sorry. That bias right there is just there.
That's fair, because I mean he's been Wolverine for the longest time, so he's gonna be a lot of people's first choice. But if he couldn't get it, I think Tuflexus will be interesting, as well as Hater. Like, if either one of them gets it, I wouldn't even be mad. It'd be great.
I mean, Arthur Morgan wouldn't be too bad, but I mean, there's a lot of voices that could really kind of fit that.
Same, just gotta be gruff and know, just have some sort of indication of what the character does, you know what I mean? And I'd be all for it. It just all is gonna cycle down to how it sounds, and I think we heard Bloom for years, so we kind of got a notion of that, but everybody else, they gotta bring their A game, so that's how it's gonna be.
I mean, Bloom's got just that graveliness to the voice that just makes you like, okay, I'm listening a little bit further. Okay.
Yeah, it's so perfect. That's why.
He's
It makes you gravitate.
I loved him in Hulk versus Wolverine. That movie is so great.
Yes.
Like, I'm just torn because I'm so used to Bloom for the most part, kind of covering that voice. But on the other hand, I'm like, this is a perfect time for Insomniac to introduce a new voice to the character. Like, on one hand, you can introduce something that people are familiar with, so they're already kind of connected to the character, but also they have a chance to actually introduce a name and a voice that actually could probably do it even better, if more than what we think, because we don't know what these other voices are going to sound like. So maybe a new voice might be better.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, that's the thing about Wolverine too is like, regardless of voices them, they're always like, it's still the same character at the core, and seeing like someone entirely new in the shoes of Logan is going to be really interesting. Which I'm guessing if they do a new actor, they'll probably do the motion capture. I want to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's mandatory now.
Oh yeah.
Also, a voice that comes to mind to me, just because I listen to like the Wolverine like podcast series, like Richard Armitage might be a good one because his voice fits so well in that, and you're already just being carried through that whole thing just by voice alone. So that might actually be a good one to go with as well. Plus, I also loved his like Trevor Belmont interpretation.
Oh yeah, I remember that. He's pretty cool. That'd be another cool selection. Someone said Carl Urban in chat, and he just killed it as Dread. So it's like so many people they could really get for this. But the ones that stepped up and said something, they are cool in my book. I just want to see where this progresses. I think we're gonna find out probably next year, because I mean, while we won't get any news and it'll be Spider-Man's year, I'm sure they might tease something down the line in terms of casting, because that's like basic stuff.
It's one of the first things you need to do, because you need to start getting like the voice acting done. So you can pair it with like the animation. So yeah, they're definitely going to probably get casting out by, I would say, late next year.
Yep. Which I cannot wait for. Anyone else on this question?
I'm excited. I'm excited for this Wolverine game. I hope it really knocks out the park. But first, I gotta get a PS5.
Yeah, since it's far out, because again, it's 2025 from what I'm hearing, 2024. So, I hope it's 2024. But if it's 2025, screw it. I'll wait for it. No problem. It's just, now it's like, if these guys prove themselves as two of the marquee like Marvel AAA video game makers, I would just probably want more. Like, what could you do with the Hulk or something like that? It's a lot to put on the table.
Give us Daredevil, you cowards!
Oh yeah, that's that's the day one if I see that. That's the 100%.
I mean, I just applaud them for taking out Wolverine and not doing yet another variation of Spider-Man. Like, it is so easy for them to just continue on and just like do another character, like move on to like Venom or anyone else. But instead they're like, we're going to move on to a whole new character. So good on you, Insomniac.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Definitely.
I still would fight for Venom DLC and Spider-Man 2. I'm fighting for that.
Still coming already. Damn it! I was Spider.
That's not going to be a game at that point. That's just going to be a storyline of Nut. But we're moving on to the next one. So, what storylines or characters do you want to see for Marvel's Wolverine? As a bonus, do you want them to cross over into the Spider-Man universe, or should it stay standalone story-wise?
I mean, honestly, I think it's going to be end up crossing over into Spider-Man in a way. Because let's be honest here, there's no way they're not going to let Spider-Man Wolverine cross over in some fashion.
Oh yeah, definitely.
They've done the
that's-
previous ones. They have the assets. Of course, they're gonna cross it over. I think they
Yep.
should stick to just Wolverine because that would be like being able to focus on the character alone. But I also can see like them just not being able to help themselves. It's like we have all of these assets from before. Why don't I just throw it in there just for like a cameo or just like something to draw people in? It's like, hey, we have Spider-Man too, and it's like, damn it.
As characters I want to see personally, though, I definitely want to see X-23 in some fashion. Because I feel like she doesn't get enough attention outside the comic sphere, so this would be a great opportunity to introduce her into the to the mainstream audience.
Sabretooth.
Silver Samurai. I want to see that where you're actually having that fight.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
definitely.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of want to see Sabretooth.
Same.
Oh, that's gonna be always one right there.
Yeah.
Sabretooth.
He's definitely going to be. Look, he's got to be a confirmed lock in this game as well as Striker. There's nowhere.
Oh.
I'm trying to think of any other like character.
Deathstroke.
Really? Yes.
Well, that mercenary group should definitely be in. So what? Deadpool, Sabretooth.
Oh, that
Strike,
the Howlers, I believe.
Yeah.
I
was gonna mention.
Oh yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention that. Maybe a little cock tease of Deadpool or something like that. They just say they just make a little tease like, oh, I heard that there's a mercenary out there, but he has a mouth on him or something like that, like a little tease or whatever.
I would let's see. I would love to see Omega Red and Lady Deathstrike in the Wolverine game, like because I said this on Twitter like a year ago, but I would definitely really like them to because I think she'd be like a good fit for the game, since and along with Omega Red.
I was gonna say Omega Red, yeah.
For me, if they really want to get like truly iconic and kind of go back to the roots, I can't see them not showing the fight between Wolverine and Hulk because that's like the very first time he ever was a character, and showing that fight of like a never-ending losing battle would be a great way to kind of settle the character in.
After that point, everyone's gonna get green hard-ons, and then they're gonna say, well, what they're confirming now, so they have to make a Hulk game at this rate, which, I mean, if you put a reference that big out there, I'm probably going to be asking the same questions. Like you
don't want to play it.
Yeah, like you don't want to play it, but he's a rival in this game. But, we're teasing the fact that Bruce Banner is here, so I could see them doing something like that 100%.
Now, in terms of, like, storylines though, for me, honestly, there's so many storylines, but I don't know, maybe the storyline that we saw a little bit in the first X-Men movie before he gets picked up by the X-Men after getting knocked out by Sabretooth, where he's just like I keep saying, him being a drifter.
I kind of
soul searching almost.
I just kind of like,
I don't know.
I like the war aspects a lot, and again, sort of having that blank spot in his mind as to what is going on, like just tragic history all around, and people dying around Wolverine, and him not really understanding why these paramilitary people are trying to come after him and capture him is something that they definitely will mostly cover in this game 100%, because I don't think whoever is, of course, a Striker, but I don't think he's going to let him walk around everywhere all willy-nilly, so he's going to try to get him again.
Yeah, I will like add something as well. I mean, I kind of do want to see a crossover with Spider-Man, but part of me kind of doesn't, because I mean, I don't know how they're going to treat the character, and if the character, how, depending on how serious they portray Wolverine, I don't know how that would really mesh with Yuri's Spider-Man.
I mean, it really.
I mean, I know in the comics and the animated shows, you know, Wolverine is serious, and Spider-Man is, you know, quirky. You know, he's got little, you know, quips, you know, backhanded comments, stuff like that. But I don't know if he's super serious in this new Wolverine game. I guess it will be have a wait and see how the character is. So for now, I'm kind of indifferent. I'm neutral. But I would like to see him in a crossover.
This thing though, like even the most serious version of Wolverine, he still bounced on Spider-Man pretty well. In fact, what's the comic book series? I forgot what it was though, but in this particular series, that Wolverine's like deadbeat serious though, but Spider-Man still clouds on him. So like they still can definitely make it work. Like that's not even going an issue though. The question is still like, no, are they competent enough to even do it?
Yeah, it also depends. Like, are they making more than one? Because I mean, one, sales are going to have everything to do with that, but two, they could just this be a standalone. If they do want to, they can do a more finality kind of story. But if it's like planned sequels, then the storylines can probably kind of vary a little bit. Like they might do Weapon X, they might do the Japan storyline, they might do kind of like time jumps. Or if they're going for a finality, they would do the death of Wolverine and just have all those spots in the back looking back on before he dies. I don't know. Like there's a lot of things they could probably do.
Old Man Logan, the game. You know, that'd be pretty
Not
hype if they did that. It takes some planning in a couple of years' time, but that is an end game if they want to do it.
Oh God, Old Man Logan.
Actually, I got a question. Do you guys think? Do you think the Wolverine game will like lead into like another series, kind of like Spider-Man? You know, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Spider-Man 2, if it like does really well.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a rumor. It's just a rumor, a grain of salt, but they said Insomniac might be working on a team up game, and if this game is successful, I can only think of it being X-Men, because it.
Oh God. Or Dark Avengers.
Yeah.
Especially since they have the Spider-Man universe as well. Like if they're trying to do a team up, it would be a way of like having Spider-Man cross over and there being a reason for it.
And that's the big one. They could do something like that if they wanted to, and that would test how they fire on all cylinders. And I would want that. So, but I can't say. So we just have to wait and see what happens. But I would be all for it, honestly.
Same. Yeah, you could really do a lot with like what Lance said, like a next Wolverine teaming up with the Dark Avengers. That'd be hype as hell.
Yeah, or the X-Men. You have his mechanics like already made. You can just copy and paste them, and he'll play the same. I don't know about him ripping people apart though. The X-Men game, they might make that like T-rated, but hey, it's like what can you do?
We'll see when we see. But right now, we don't even have what this is going to be in general. So I guess we're just throwing theories out here at this point.
Mm-hmm. Anyone else before we move on to number 9? Going once, going twice.
Well, I do want to see him fight against Romulus if they can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like one of the guys that had fought Wolverine before. I had to search up the name.
Just let me beat up Deadpool. You see Logan getting annoyed by him to the point where he cuts off his arm.
Or they could bring in Wolverine's son and have him fight Wolverine.
Oh, I hate Dawkins so much.
Oh God, yeah.
I really hate Dawkins.
Really? People don't like him?
No, because well,
it's a love hate with that character. Every time I look around, I was like, "Do you like this character?" Like, and I'm like, "Oh God, this could go one way or another."
it's like, do you like this character? He has some of the traits. Do you like this character? He sort of turned Punisher into confetti and chopped him up. So it's like, I don't know. Like he's a divisive character to say the least.
Yes, I would agree.
He could make a good villain in DLC.
Yeah, I mean that would be a stinger because not many people know who Dawkins is, so they could make him a villain, but he does have daddy issues for sure.
That's what happens when your father is Wolverine. You're gonna come with daddy issues.
Abandonment.
Or have a dead mom.
Damn it! Shut up.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Oh man.
I knew that was coming. I knew it. Well, another hype announcement for the next question. What do you guys think about Deadpool 3 and Jackman coming back?
Hell yeah.
Man, dude, that broke the internet, man. That had me excited for, like, more excited than any other Marvel property that was announced prior. Like, Jesus Christ, Hugh Jackman is coming back. I never thought that would be impossible.
Yeah, I thought
Do
it
you
was
know how
over.
long they've been working on that?
Probably for a
long.
while. Probably for a while. Because last time Jackman was Wolverine was 5 years ago. Yeah, it has to be 5 years ago because that was when Logan came out.
I heard he had like skin cancer as well, so that was another reason he had to retire.
That happened in I think that happened with during Days of Future Past, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah, that was part of
Yeah.
that. He was also like, he just did not want to work his body the way he had to be that character. But from what I know, Feige and Reynolds have been working on him for like years, with Reynolds just reaching out to him constantly.
Yeah, so it was being that annoying brother again. Yes, I'll do it.
You know the most funny thing about it, he was reaching out to him constantly behind the scenes, but in the trailer he's so nonchalant about it. He was like, you want to be Wolverine one more time? And he's like, sure, no problem. He walks up the stairs. I thought that was the funniest part in that entire scenario.
I thought they were just about to do another alcohol commercial, because that's what they did prior with like their coffee and alcohol companies, and they did like a combined commercial. And I was just like, is this happening again? And it's like, oh no, oh what? Okay, that was some convincing. Okay, Deadpool 3, here we go.
I saw it and I didn't believe it. I'm like, this is a hoax. This is another hoax. He's done after Logan. Then Ryan Reynolds was saying it was legit, and I was like, what the fuck is? Then like Marvel started like retweeting it, and I'm like, okay, this is yeah, this broke the entire internet in my brain. I know people were saying they think that the ending of Logan was ruined, and they had to make a follow-up video explaining that, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're gonna peel him out from another time period that's not Logan, which is what they sort of talked about, so everything's good.
Yeah, that's what I think is gonna happen. Which, hey, I mean, hey, anything's possible, dude. Like Marvel has all these multiverses, so why not just bring back all the characters for like more movies?
That's the rumor that I heard for Secret Wars.
I'm definitely extremely excited. My excitement more comes from this is just another example of the fans being listened to, which is a whole thing that's been going on lately that I've been noticing where, people who are involved in making nerd pop culture, movies, etc., content, whatever, are actually starting to listen to what the actual fans have to say, in a sense. Not that they're like completely taking for stock everything they say, but like, we've been wanting a Deadpool Wolverine movie for as long as Ryan Reynolds has been wanting a Deadpool Wolverine movie. And to get that announcement was just like Christmas.
Yeah, I wanted that hard since the first one, because they were just like teasing it constantly about the other X-Men and them actually. I think the biggest one was when they actually went to the Institute and stayed there for a little bit. I was like, okay, now it's just we have the tools, so we can do something like this. And they say it's gonna be a road trip movie, which I will watch. Ryan and Hugh do anything in a road trip, but I think it's gonna be funny as fuck.
They could literally be in the car the entire time and do nothing else. I would still watch the entire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like a true comedy road trip movie. Jesus.
Like,
Yeah,
do
I
they?
mean-
But it's Wolverine and fucking Deadpool.
that's-
It's just plane, trains, and automobiles, but Wolverine and Deadpool.
Yes, exactly.
honestly, like when I first heard about this, I'm like, I have always wanted this to happen, and I nutted. I no,
Okay, your secret's safe here.
I couldn't hold it. And
Were you wearing
just-
your rubber masturbating shoes?
Nah, he morbed. That's all.
Hey, more.
Oh my god, here we go with the board.
No.
Unicorn.
but I mean, knowing what basically, like, because there's so many stories out there like why Hugh Jackman like stopped being Wolverine. There's like health reasons. There's the thing where he's like, oh, I felt like it was time because I talked with Jerry Seinfeld and he told me how he felt doing his Seinfeld show, and when he felt like it was time to end the show, and he then thought it to himself later that day, like, maybe my time has come as well with the role. And then there's the one that I just found out recently involving I think it's called body dysmorphia, where he didn't have to overdo it with the diets that he had during the Wolverine films or the role itself, but he just pushed himself because he looked at himself in the mirror and he's like, I could do better. I don't like the way I look. I could do it better. And because he said, he looking back at the first X-Men movie, he said he hated the way his body looked. And ever since that movie, he had pushed himself way over the top, or way over the limits. And it's kind of like sad that happened, but I'm glad that he is comfortable with coming back to being Logan, if that is the case, that he did have body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
I'm definitely
So,
gonna
it's
say
nice seeing him.
that I like so like it's a very common thing, especially like lately with the massive amount of superhero movies that we've been getting where people have been talking about it. But I definitely feel that, it's a multifaceted thing why he stopped, but I definitely think that health issues were definitely at the forefront of a lot of it. Just because the Marvel actors that we have today, that is actually their biggest complaint about doing the movies is the dietary restrictions, the rigorous exercise that they put their body through. Because it's basically like you're putting your body through a stop and go, and that's not good.
Oh yeah, even Hemsworth has come out about that, where it's like, and he's playing a character that is constantly built like that, and he's even come out about that kind of diet and just what it does on their bodies and how much they hate it.
Yeah, that is just some extreme stuff. That's why I'm glad in the interviews he said he's coming back, but he's not going to try to come back and just completely shred himself to the point of exhaustion and just he can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he said he knows his limit. I think he made a point where he said, like, even like when I did the role when I was younger, it still took a lot out of me to really like push it to go over the top. And I learned my lesson with that. I'm not doing over the top. I'm doing the basic bulking up and taking things slowly without having myself being pushed too far like I was when I was young. That's pretty much the gist that I got when he talked about that, which I'm glad, because at least he knows what to do now and not to like overdo it.
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
He's one of those actors that he is one of those actors that will really, really push himself to like the absolute limit for performance. I mean, don't forget, this is the same guy that I think he got his start with acting in theater. So people really push it in theater more than people realize. People think that acting in movies, like people like really push themselves to the absolute like limit with acting in movies and shows. Theater is like a whole another level of overdoing it sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, because you even got like those like method actors who completely put themselves into the role of the character,
Yeah, like Christian Bale.
Brandon
Mhm.
Fraser, that's another one.
and that's another one. A big example. Brandon Fraser, someone who along the lines of their body, kind of just was like, I can't do it.
But I'm glad he's coming back and doing it on his own terms, and I think that's like the real important thing that they should focus on. Otherwise, it's gonna be more bad blood, so it's best not to push it too far. But we're moving on to question number 10, and then the final one after this. This one's just simple. So eventually, like I'm pretty sure this might be Jackman's last outing as the character. He said one more time. So in the MCU, eventually we're gonna get to the mutant arc, and then they have to sort of get a new Wolverine. So if they do get a new Wolverine for the MCU, what would you like them to do for the character, considering all the pre-established stuff we have now?
Can I go real quick?
Yeah.
Cool. I really want to see Carl Urban. I know recently there's a huge deep fake trailer for Wolverine by Marvel that was released, and a lot of people thought that Carl Urban was actually taking on the role of Wolverine. And right now we don't have any information that even suggests that. But I would love to see him take on the role as Wolverine, just because I feel that in general he has that gruffness in a lot of his acting to pull off the role of Wolverine really well if you were to bring him back. That's all I have.
That's funny because I think he's in The Boys, so it all just he's in a superhero show, so it all comes full circle.
Oh, he's in a lot of nerdy stuff.
He really is. For me, like there's like two ways they could go about it. If they're trying to utilize like Logan or anything else, they might try to pull a different version of like X-23. So they might go with that different type of version. Or if they're trying to go with a more definitive Logan, I mean, Joel Egerton, who was like in It Comes at Night and everything, has that kind of look about him that screams like, oh, that's Logan right there. He just needs to grow his beard out a little bit more.
I kept seeing people say they wanted Clint Eastwood's son or whatever, Scott Eastwood. I was like, I just wasn't seeing it. I don't know, maybe I was seeing something different. I don't know. But I think Carl is a great choice because of the voice. I think he can pull it off. As Lano said, you know what I mean? It's just getting that person to be in that role.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just getting that person to be in that role, and also trying to meld the mutant saga with everything that came before, because I'm pretty sure like after phase 6 it's just going to be straight up X-Men stuff from there at that point, because they did say like 2025 or whatever after that they're going to be doing X-Men stuff, and Feige is very 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 eager to do it after reading all the interviews and stuff he said. So I think that's going to be next, Mutant Saga. And then, well, they could end it on an actual Dark Phoenix movie that is not a bad adaptation, because they've adopted this arc about 2 times now, and it just keeps getting
the same thing.
Yeah, which is the same thing, but it just keeps being worse than the last because Dark Phoenix happened. So,
I found that so funny and ironic.
oh man,
But there's like so many other enemies they could really pull from that actually were X-Men and Avenger enemies. Like Onslaught is a really big one. There's like a couple of them they can really pull without having to like really delve too deep, because you know they're going to go for a big hoopla of an enemy. They always do. It seems to be what they're building towards every single time.
yeah, I think
Vertigo?
I think it's gonna be Galactus and probably Phoenix, but at least if they do it, they'll give it time to breathe, as opposed to like the Fox just saying we're gonna put all this in one film and that's it. So,
I mean, even like the Phoenix arc being like the third movie, in my opinion, it felt too early.
I agree with this. I agree.
It just feels like a storyline they maybe just do the past history that maybe they should pass on a little bit, just because people already have bad blood with it to begin with. So for them to tease it again feels like a misstep.
I definitely think it's something they should kind of leave alone. Because it's been done a handful of times and it hasn't been done correctly. That being said, the way that Marvel's been handling its superhero movies and how they progress, I'm really excited to see what happens when X-Men and whatnot get pulled into the actual universe. Because to me, the Marvel movies have done a really good job about pacing and building that story, building up to that big bad guy, not just the big bad guy shows up.
They have a couple ways to go about it now, the way they're introducing things. There's like secret wars that they're building towards. Multiverse of Madness already introduced an Xavier already. So they already have the nuts and bolts. Now it's just like how they're going to be pulled in specifically.
Oh yeah, the Marvel universe has 1,000 different ways to go right now. So
Let's just see if they do it right.
how they pull in Wolverine is going to be interesting to see, and I hope at the end of the day they do it right, because to me so far the Marvel extended cinema universe has not been that bad at all.
Yeah,
They, did you guys hear about the little Easter egg in what is it, Miss Marvel, where there's a guy with claws running around?
Uh-huh.
And I heard that. I was like, that can only be one person, so he's kind of already there. I was like, what the hell?
yeah.
They did say they were going to tease the two characters, which was Xavier and Wolverine. Those were going to be the big ones they started teasing out, and we already saw Xavier, so now it's Wolverine being teased.
No, a lot of people are assuming that once Fantastic Four gets released, that is when like the X-Men will get introduced around soon after Fantastic Four, probably after, either before or after Galactus, because reportedly, according to a sheet for Fantastic Four, it said that they were looking to do 3 Fantastic Four movies, with it leading up to Galactus.
I would not be surprised.
So people are saying that them introducing Galactus like that, it could lead to the introduction of X-Men, because last I heard, Marvel DC, not Marvel DC, pardon me, Marvel Disney cannot use X-Men until what was it, 2023, 2024,
No, I think
because
it's
of the Fox contract.
I think it's beyond, so it's 2025, and plus they delayed their slate, so it's probably gonna be a little bit beyond that.
Yeah, and now since the phases can be more thought out, since Kevin Feige has his Infinity Gauntlet back, maybe we can get a better fleshed out phase than we did this current one, with the introduction of Fantastic Four and the X-Men.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be a ton of teases leading up, so we're gonna get more and more like hints and winks and nods as like more of it expands until they can finally use the characters. So I think they're gonna be using that time to really kind of like start sneaking in
Yeah.
lore, so that when they're introduced, it's not just like a big, just like boom, they're here. Instead, it's like, oh, we kind of already been feeling them without them actually being there.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that'd be cool. I'm all for that. So we have to move on to the final question here, which is question number 11. So this is like a story lore thing that I wanted to sneak in real quick, but what were your thoughts on how Weapon X happened and how Wolverine got the adamantium and adamantium in general, like overall strengthening his bones and everything? What is your thoughts on that?
I mean, considering that we know Stryker to be like extremely manipulative.
Man, sadistic.
I mean, yeah, and sadistic. I mean, it's extremely tragic, not just for, Wolvie, but just for like anyone that was part of the weapon program.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, being lied to, saying like,
Yeah.
oh, you have a high purpose, in life, and you do this and this will happen. But then you get, lied to essentially, and you get turned into a weapon basically against like your will, because you didn't sign up for that. You signed up for something else because you thought it would be that. Just getting lied to, manipulated like that, and just used like a toy. That's very fucking tragic.
isn't this where once they did this experiment, this is where number one, Stryker did not tell him the side effects, and that was the case of him losing his memory? Because I'm pretty sure it happened here, because every time it flashes back in the comics or the movies or anything to Alkali Lake with him covered in the blood of the scientists and everything, he just can't remember that he literally killed everyone in that base.
I think so, because that's why there's only like one scene that really pops up in my head of Origins, and that's when after it was a success, the adamantium bonded to his skeleton. Stryker's like, yes. He's like, no, we're not gonna take him to the island, erase his memory. And that's when Wolverine wakes up. He's like, excuse me? And he just goes on a rampage. I actually like that, because especially that guy, what was it, Agent Zero? Isn't that the guy? It wasn't that the guy's name? The guy was like a marksman.
I believe so.
I think, yeah. He was like, I think he heard you, because Wolverine's like thrashing in the water, and I'm like, then that's when the guy shoots him in the head, and Wolverine just kind of like shakes it off, and you see the metal skull that he has now is like, oh, okay.
You're right. It is Agent Zero. I'm used to him known as like Maverick. So,
Yeah.
I just like
took me a minute.
It's like
I just love that scene. He's just like, erase his memory. What? You want to do what now?
but it also leads up to the adamantium poisoning, which is another unfortunate side effect of when he gets like super old. It starts to, well, his regeneration starts getting fucked. Then he can't pop out his claws anymore without it causing pain, and then he ultimately dies to it. So it's sort of like tying a death bond to Wolverine in a sense.
The adamantium poison thing is not even consistent anymore, because one, Beast actually cured him of that shit in the comics.
Really? No.
Yeah.
What's really interesting is like that whole storyline is a tie back to like when Scarlet Witch removed every mutant's powers. it's a callback to that series of comics. So I always found it interesting when that, House of M. So it was just like it was a nice callback to see that happen. And you're right, that was cured recently, but that House of X is a whole other thing.
It depends on the story, because if they want those mutants dead, then they would just pull a Death of X and get them like super mutant AIDS and try to kill them off. And I remember that too. I was like, holy crap! I was like, how are they gonna make it? It was like, well, that's what the writers kind of did, but
yeah.
But it's a very interesting prospect. It gives lore to Logan trying to discover who he is. And it just it's cooler. Like people say it's cooler seeing it with the bone claws, and I like the bone claws and all that stuff because it makes him look primitive. But especially in the comics where he looks like a caveman. But
yeah, it makes him look different.
Oh
though.
yeah,
the
feral version.
he just got bonked on the head 5,000 times by a cave woman. He's all right. But
in more ways than one. Oh, okay, that's good.
But with the metal claws, it's just, I don't know, it just looks a lot more iconic. That's what people know the character for, and the fact that he not only regenerates, but you can see like inside his skin, and he looks like a T-800. That shit is sick. I just love when you strip down the bare essence and you think this man's invincible, and so much shit happens that it's just awesome to see.
Yeah. It's like depending on the comic, and it's how good his healing is. Sometimes he just healed from like a scrap of flesh, which is just what. But I believe the Weapon X program was one of the few times where you actually get to see more human Logan rather than just like the gruff one that we tend to see, because you get to see him in pain. You get to see him reflecting back on his past, what memories he does have, and then but also dealing with the fact that there's holes in there, and it may have been caused by the Weapon X program, might be something else, but it's a nice, interesting introspect for the character. So I always like the introduction of the story, and sometimes some of the throwbacks of him having to go back and revisit it again and have to deal with that haunting nightmare that he lived through.
Yeah, that was the best thing about X2 when he was in in the bunker, and he was sort of just feeling around the environment, and he saw everything that he went through, and it was just like haunting for him. So I really like that scene in the movie, to be honest. Very underrated. But anyone else on this question? Going once, going twice. The soul to the Wendigo and Red. So we're gonna the Wendigos, the creatures that they used to have at Alkali Lake. You can kill them in X-Men Origins, but they are there. But we're gonna sign out this podcast, do our outros. So I'm gonna do mine first. You can find me on Twitter, @operative_. You can find me on YouTube, Renegade Operative. I recently been playing a lot of Callisto, so I've been uploading that. And then I'm going to upload this podcast as well as put it on the IAS channel. So look forward to that. Next we have Brandon.
Hi, Immortal Brando on Twitter. I have a link through there somewhere. You can find it. And everyone else is none of your goddamn business. Fuck off.
All right then, just dump them in the lake like a dumpster baby. I'm kidding.
That's right.
Next up is Cryo.
You can find me on both Twitter and YouTube under the same handle, Cryo Gaming.
Next up is Lanos.
All right. Well, you can find me on YouTube primarily, but you can also find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch. You can find me on most social media under the same name, even Spotify if you really want to look there. And right now, currently just running up to my anniversary of YouTube, so we've got a lot of like fun things I'm going to be introducing. But yeah, just check it out.
Andre, what about you, buddy?
I'm glad you asked. Well, you can find me at Twitter as Andre B. Venom, also on YouTube as the same name. I also do have like an Instagram if you guys ever want to follow my Instagram. I really need to get back in the habit of like posting more, but I promise you guys I will definitely post more when I get the chance. But yeah, that is me.
Hollow Heart, what about you?
You can find me. Sorry. Hi, I'm Hollowheart. You can find me on YouTube at Hollowheart. You can also find me on Twitch at whatever Twitch is stuff, hollowheart.com.
And the last one is Nero.
And you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube under Kingdom Barrage. And I got some stuff coming up. I don't know what kind of stuff, but it's coming.
Play some retro games, you'll be fine. So we're going to sign out tonight. Interesting Wolverine podcast. Had a lot of fun. When we do other comic characters, I'm 100% positive the next one in line might be Hulk. So he has a history as well, and it's interesting stuff to talk about. So that's going to be probably next, as well as Mr. Batman. That could be also next as well.
Bring me in for Batman.
Batman is just it's a lot.
Bring me in and no one else, because no one's going to get to talk.
But we're signing out. It's a lot of potential, a lot of fun, and we will see you guys out there in YouTube land sometime later. Peace out.